All right, questions for Coach Hamdan?
What do you learn 2 days into this?
You know, it's an eager group. It is. Really, really excited just about the culture here overall. I think it's a group that practices hard, that wants to learn, wants to get better, and that's been a huge plus.
Bush, you talked about being impressed with receivers when you first in your introductory press conference. Mark pointed out us having a good first day. What's been just when you get out on the field, what's been your impressions of that group?
Yeah, just the depth, the depth in competition. I think in order to be the best, obviously, in this league, I mean, you got to create that depth. And certainly we know of the one or two guys who have had a lot of success here, but there's been 3 or 4 other guys that are really playing at a high level. We're excited about the competition in that room.
Let's talk about you have tempo. Is it expected to be the case?
We do, yeah. We've been, again, it's a mixture of tempo, and I think the players have done an extremely nice job of getting a good feel of that. Obviously, there's going to be some wrinkles and things we got to continue to work on, but we do, again, believe the ability to play fast, play slow, mix it up is going to be valuable.
What do you like about Brock Vandergriff, both on film and in these first years?
I think it always just starts with the personality piece. He's a full-time quarterback. He loves it. From a leadership standpoint, I think his teammates understand the preparation he puts in, and that's first and foremost. It always starts there. It's a guy that really wants to be great. Certainly we think, in 2 days, make all the throws, good decision-making, and so we're just going to have to keep building. And a lot of it is just the nuances of the new offense, new players, and how fast we can bring them along.
Mark mentioned because what they did at Georgia was so complex, that should translate pretty well to this kind of play style. Have you seen that from him so far?
Yeah, I certainly agree with that. He's been coached extremely well. It's a very similar system. A lot of times it's just a change in verbiage, if you will, of what they called it, what we call it. And so we're fortunate that he's got a lot of good work in. Yeah.
How much correlation of the coaches and everything to get the signals and all of that?
Yeah, it's certainly an adjustment a little bit, just because 15, 16 years of not having it and now having it. So I think it's a good balance. It certainly will help us from a communication with the quarterback, but it also cannot hinder us in everybody making sure their eyes are to the signals, especially the quarterback, and knowing what he's got to get done.
Bush, leadership on offense was a talking point last year. Something that I think Liam and Vince both said they needed to improve after the season. What have you seen just early on from that group, and are they checking those boxes as whether off the field workouts or in practice?
Yeah, I certainly think there's a number of guys that can step up into that role. Again, I like the urgency. I like the way we're practicing. I think the true leadership will come from the guys who can be consistent over long periods of time. And so, again, you're through practice 2. Generally, everybody's happy, as we all know, but the leadership's going to come from those guys that can deal with the ups and the downs through practice 7, 8, 9, 10 into the summer and obviously lead this team.
Which you'll learn that Kentucky fans love to ask about, but throwing to the tight ends more. In general, how do you kind of view that position in your offense and what you've seen from those guys?
Yeah, I think, all about throwing the ball to those tight ends. Obviously, I think first job I had was as a tight end coach. And again, I think that's the one position where if you can find a guy that's extremely good in the run game and create a bunch of opportunities for him in the pass game. So we're looking at opportunities there. I think this tight end group is probably as deep as any other unit on the offensive side of the ball. And so we're excited to continue to find ways to get them the ball.
What's been the early impressions of that quarterback room? And you have the number of guys, like you want to have 3 or 4 that can play right now, or is it just kind of a feel thing?
I think, ideally you're at least feeling comfortable with playing 3 guys, and my early impressions are I think there's some good veteran leadership in that room, and there's really some high-end talent in those younger guys. Now, how fast we can get them caught up, a little bit of that is on us as a staff, not putting too much on their plate and allowing them to just go play fast, but we certainly think we've got good talent in that room.
Mark mentioned Mincy as a guy at right tackle the other day. How much do you all just plan to try some of your guards, moving out there, move some guys around the spring season?
I think there's going to be a lot of changing parts and flexibility, and I think there's a lot of give or take there, right? You want them to develop the camaraderie of the same 5 guys playing, but there's certainly 6 or 7 guys at that position that we feel strongly about. And so I think now is the time, to move guys in different spots. Sometimes guys might surprise you. You might think, hey, I don't know if he can be a tackle, and he looks better there. Sometimes tackles may look better inside. And so Wolf's doing a great job of mixing those guys around, playing younger guys, older guys, but still keeping that cohesion of getting the offense going.
Questions for Coach Watt?
Right, Brad, how do you want to see JJ build off kind of the big finish he had last season, and how is he progressing as a leader so far?
Yeah, that's the goal, right? Is putting it all together where it's not just a game or two, it's an entire season, and that's a process. Obviously, just a couple of practices in, but he's doing sort of what we need him to do. But I want to continue to push him past his limits. Like, that's what he needs this year, is to not be comfortable. Like, he needs to be uncomfortable. He needs to continue to push. He's done a nice job in the weight room, adding some more girth, and so he just needs to relax and be him. He doesn't need to be anybody else. He doesn't need to try to be anybody else. He just needs to be him. And when he did that at the back end of the season, you saw some production, and that's what we're looking for.
Brad, there aren't All-Americans available in the transfer portal very often, but Jamin, he talked a lot about the relationship you guys had, the recruiting process. What do you like about him, and how does he maybe fit with De'Aaron there in the middle?
Yeah, excited obviously to add him to the room. Brings a guy with a ton of experience, a really strong football mentality in terms of, and when I say that, I mean out on the practice field, it's tough, it's rugged. He's ruggedly built. He's going to be strong. He's got short area quickness and explosion. I think him and D-Jack are going to work great. Excited about Davern's progress this offseason, and so excited about, that group and watching those guys through spring start just communicating, melding together. I think it's been pretty seamless in that regard. So excited.
Another guy, Coach Fabry, stepping into a bigger role for you all. What have you seen from him this offseason, and what do you want to see from him?
Yeah, another guy that's done a really good job in the weight room. Added pounds. You can see physically he looks more ready to be an every down type of player, and that's what he needs to be, because the last 2 years he didn't have enough girth, but to be a situational type player. And then the same thing mentally. Like we talked about, that position takes a little bit for you to truly understand. And it's been a good first couple of days of practice. Made a couple of mistakes at the back end of practice today that in the past would have got him really frustrated. I think he's grown and matured in that he can take the coaching point and he can move to the next play. And so to me, like, those are little things that people don't necessarily see. It's not physically, making some kind of special play. It's actually making a wrong play and being old enough and mature enough to be able to take that mistake and then play the next play and not let it hang over him like it has in the past. So.
Brad, what's the message to those young corners coming off the bowl game? They kind of got forced into it there at the end because of injuries. That last drive obviously didn't go the way you wanted. Now they're kind of competing for that spot.
Yeah, I think the message, not just to them, but to everybody, listen, when it's your time to step up, you don't know when that's going to be, right? And, it was a big moment, and they made some plays, but they also, they struggled in some moments. Look at Max Hairston. The one moment that he got was the biggest moment of the season the year before, sort of against Vandy at 4th and 10. They complete the big deep ball. Well, he could have, got down on himself, but he used that as motivation through the offseason. First game against Ball State, the first 2 drives, Like, he's all over the place with his eyes, making mental mistakes, settles himself down, and then look at Max, look at the season that he has last year. It's the same thing for anybody. When it's your moment, it's the time that you put in ahead of time. You can't try to get ready immediately. You have to prepare that moment is coming. And obviously when it's a competition for a spot, like, they know they can see that coming. But it's really those ones that, hey, maybe they have a returning starter or a guy that's played multiple years in front of them. I'm not going to get in the game. I'm just going to sort of go through the motions. Well, we can see as fast as that, somebody's going to get hurt and you're in the game. You got to be ready.
When your experience as this team seems to be, specifically the front seven, are you maybe ahead of schedule after 2 practices in the spring than maybe you were in the past, or do you feel like you're kind of in the same area?
Yeah, that's interesting. I think we talk about this quite a bit when we get to spring, and we've had teams even last year where you return a fair amount of starters, and so we talked about last year, we're ahead of schedule. But if you try to progress too fast, those backups that we were talking about that are trying to gain confidence, they can fall way behind, and then you can just steal their confidence. So it's trying to mix, hey, being ahead with some older guys so they don't get bored, but also, hey, gaining confidence in what we do with those guys that don't have that built-in reps. And again, we're a team that's both really old and really young. Like, we've got a lot of young guys that we have to build and be ready to be backups and be ready to enter the starting lineup at a moment's notice. So we're back to what we do. I probably progressed too much last year, tried to do too much in spring. We're gonna hound, and we're gonna just pound fundamentals, and we're gonna pound what we do, and then we'll work certain tweaks and certain things and experiment some stuff with that older group. But early on, even if it's boring, we've told the old guys, hey, listen, if you were good, be great. If you were great, be excellent. Every technique, every foot, all your footwork, all your eyes, be perfect. Don't get bored, with stuff that you've been doing for multiple years. And then young guys, hey, try to develop that. We're just trying to move from bad to average to maybe above average, with those guys through spring.
I'm going to guess you haven't been surprised to watch Drew Phillips kind of shoot up draft boards over the last few weeks with what he did at the combine, and this obviously big pro day tomorrow. What are your impressions about that? How does he translate maybe?
Yeah, I try to turn that stuff off, and I try to tell our guys going through that process to not listen to that, because you can say this guy's shooting up the draft board, and then all of a sudden on draft day there's a letdown, right? Well, it didn't come to fruition, or you'd rather be pleasantly surprised, right, than let down. So just whoever gets you, wherever they get you, be excited. You're just trying to get your foot in the door. I think we've got a whole group of seniors and those declared juniors that are going to have a really big day, an exciting day tomorrow. And it's always fun for us as a coach to see that sort of come to fruition on pro day.
A lot of new additions from coaches to players. What are you just overall generally excited about as a whole going into the spring?
Yeah, just building this year's team. I think that's a big piece. Obviously, from a coaching standpoint, defensively, we've had a whole bunch of continuity, right? We haven't, other than sort of at the graduate assistant position, we haven't had any turnover, which allows guys that have been in the system, they understand what to expect, what those expectations are, how their position coach is going to coach them, how their coordinator is going to coach them. But the interaction, the cross interaction between offense and defense, that's fun. You sort of feel that out. It's been a fun, competitive 2 days. So the mix is nice. You put in the new players, you get to see what they can do and see how they compete. You like the old guys to kind of pull the new ones along to show them what our standard is, how we practice, our style. But I think it's been a really good 2 days, both sides of the football. Good plays by both sides, bad plays by both sides, competitive on special teams, and so yeah. But it's only 2 practices in. We got 13 left.
What are your impressions of Bush's offense, and what kind of different challenges maybe does it present you guys from going against a very similar scheme the last 3 years?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to get into to anything schematically there, but it's a challenging offense for a defense. It puts you through a lot of iterations. It stresses your rules, which is great. It's great for our old guys because then they don't get bored. It gets real hard for your young guys because they're trying to work through every iteration and every check of your defense. But no, it's going to make us better as a defense, and I think it's got a high upside. We'll put it that way.